They want to own what cost thousands of years of people for a very painful and patient selections. And seeds is like the first step. And so it's not a perfect work. We still need a lot of seeds. But what we have been doing is it's called Participatory Plant Breeding Projects. Basically, we are trying to increase in the same plot the diversity of varieties. So I've seen 20 varieties of bean in the same field. For traditional seed savers, that's a crime, that's a sacrilege. You know, like, what are you doing? But it is necessary to start recognizing the empirical knowledge of farmers. And we have been doing that, like allow them the possibility to choose the seeds of the variety that they consider the best. When you cross that with scientific data, they're right. So it is necessary to leave behind that pride and start sharing and learning together. And this is happening. At some point you say, I want to create this variety and this and that. But the most important thing is that the varieties are growing on the field, that they are alive. Because if a seed is in a freezer, it's not evolving, it's not adapting. And the world is changing. And the temperature is on the rise. And so when we put it out, it won't match, you know. So it's necessary to all these varieties, all this process happens in the field. Like, you know, scientists, they hate when we say in situ. Inside, you know, but they say, no, in situ is not like that, it's in the nature. But it's the key for liberation, I think. And Heritage Seeds is a beautiful project, but anything is welcome. We need to be creative in that sense because the market doesn't have what we need.
Thank you very much. I think that the movie and what you're saying is a real cause for hope. What I'm interested in particular is how you would see the change that Cuba has been able to make being made in a democracy like New Zealand, which has an electoral system which now makes it very difficult for one party to act by themselves. And at a time when our society is very diverse and there are very marked contrasts between rich and poor.
I personally think it's not a matter of politics, it's a matter of common sense. I think that many of the things that happens there happens spontaneously. People squat the plots and start a growing thing. And the government could act in a democratic way and kick them out of there. Okay, you're trespassing, this is not your property. That's not very democratic in my opinion, but it's more about the movement of the people. It's more about the common sense, about things that need to be done. It's more about get to know your neighbor. It's more about trying to reinforce the social fabric, trying to make links in the community, work as a society and not as individuals. That's all that I can say. And I think that these are happening. And if places like in New Zealand or all wait until it's too late, it's very difficult to face because the problems are here. Problems are coming. And if you are not prepared now, it happens to us. Like we didn't have the time, the money to do the transition. We have to do it. And at the same time, in the very early year, we have problems of malnutrition, neuritis, and we have to face all of that. And we had some advantages that our ancestors, like they always live in community, like our African roots, and the Spanish roots, some Cantonese, and all of the components of the Cuban nationality, they were very strong in that sense. But at some point, changes need to happen from down to top. If you try to promote a change from top to down, and I think that unfortunately is the perception on Cuba and other countries, maybe it can last for a few years, but they don't last. And so it's a matter of like building networks, and learn lessons. Another question?
Roberto, you're talking about organic movements within a society, particularly in urban societies. There is an initiative in England and Ireland called Transition Towns. I'm not sure if you've heard about that.
Yeah.
But it's, everything that you've talked about and a lot that we've seen on the film is what they're trying to develop. And I'm wondering if you can comment on that.
Okay. Basically, what happens is like in Cuba, there was a unique opportunity that every form of doing agriculture, of grow or produce food, has an equal opportunity to start. The conventional system totally cracked. And then everything was welcome. Biodynamics, organic farming, permaculture, different ideas. And so in that conditions, people started to realize that it's effectively cheaper to produce things organically because you are not subsidizing anything of that with your taxes and all of those things. But people didn't call it organic. Or people, they say, okay, we need the food and we're producing food and that's the only way we have it. People realize how expensive were chemicals, how bad they were for the soil. And at this point, there was like this, ACAO is the Cuban Association for Organic Farming that in 1999 won the Alternative Nobel Prize in Sweden. And then different associations started to organize that. So you have like different groups and farmers. Right now we're talking about different dimensions of sustainability. This is not, the food is there already. The situation is not as bad. But even, I'm telling you, we can get all the petrol we get from Chavez, $29 a barrel. But Cuba is using less than 5 million tons. When we used in 1990, 30 million. So we're living with less than half. You don't need that much. It's totally artificial. And the transition in our case happened by force, you know. David Suzuki from David Suzuki Foundation, a very famous Canadian geneticist and environmentalist, call it revolution by accident. And there is a documentary, I don't necessarily agree with all that they say, but it's another point of view. But at some point, you can do it, no? I see a lot of links and what is happening in all this movement of transition towns and these ideas. But the idea behind it is that it is necessary to stop what we're doing, the way we're living, and to change. But people still don't get it. They think that they need to stockpile or call more the attention to the scientists, or they're waiting for, okay, they trust in a mirror. And that's very hard to change the mind of the people is one of the most difficult things. And it's just a process.
They had a movie that came out here about 10 years ago from Cuba called the Buena Vista Club.
Yeah.
And it changed a lot of habits for some people about their purchasing of music because people love the Cuban music. Do you think you could do the same with this movie?
I wish, you know. In this case, I think it was one of them. It's Wim Wenders' movie, and inside Cuba,